Good day everyone. I am Janjan Pibitio from CA200 Section B, and today I will be report the module 3. Let's start. Institutional Agency of Philippines. So, Institutional Agency of the Philippines, the correction in the Philippines started during pre-colonial times. It was, however, on individual community basis. It was only during the Spanish regime when an organized corrective service was made operational. When the Americans took over in 1900s, the Bureau of Prisons was created under the Reorganization Act of 1900s, Act number 1407, dated on November 1, 1905. The main penitentiary was the Old Bilibid Prison in Oroquita Street, Manila, which was established in 1847, pursuant to Section 1708 of the Revised Administrative Code. So, it was formally opened by a royal decree in 1865. About 4 years later, or on August 21, 1869, the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm in Zamboanga City was established to confine Muslim rebels and recalcitrant political prisoners opposed to the Spanish rule. The facility, which faces Hulu Sea, has the Spanish-inspired dormitories and originally sat on 1,414 hectares sprawling estate. When the Americans took over in the 1900s, the Bureau of Prisons was created under the Reorganization Act of 1905 and Act number 1407, dated on November 1, 1905, as an agency under the Department of Commerce and Police. It also paved the way of the re-establishment of San Ramon Prison in 1907, which was destroyed during the Spanish-American War. On January 1, 1915, the San Ramon Prison was placed under the auspices of the Bureau of Prisons and started receiving prisoners from Mindanao. Produce were transported through rail tracks, a mode which the Americans introduced to prison. Prisoners had to contend with dilapidated facilities with a cramped area. Before the reconstruction of San Ramon Prison, the American system leased in 1904 the low-heat penal settlement, now called Iwahig Prison, and penal farm on the vast reservation of 28,072 hectares. It would reach an aggregate total land area of 40,000 hectares in the late 1950s. It was located on the westernmost part of the archipelago and far from the main town to confine incorrigible who the government had found little hope at rehabilitation. The area was expanded to 41,007 by virtue of Executive Order number 67 issued by Governor Newton Gilbert on October 15, 1912. Other penal colonies were established during the American regime. On November 27, 1929, the Correctional Institution for Women was created under Act number 3579, while Davao Penal Colony in southern Mindanao was opened in 1932 under Act number 3732. The CIW was founded to provide separate facilities for women offenders to cater to their gender difference. Iwahig to the increasing number of committals. On the Old Bilibid Prison in Manila, the new Bilibid Prison was established in 1935 in a southern suburb of Muntinlupa, Zal, Manila. The old prison was transformed into a receiving center and as a storage facility for farm produce coming from the colonies. It is presently abundant and under the jurisdiction of the Republic's States Authority. Prisoners have built their basic housing areas using materials available in the prison reservation. After the American regime, two more penal institutions were established. These were Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm in Occidental Mindoro under the Proclamation No. 72 issued on September 26, 1954, and Leyte Regional Prison under Proclamation No. 1101 issued on January 16, 1973. The Bureau of Prisons was renamed Bureau of Corrections under the new Administrative Code of 1982 issued on November 23, 1987 and Proclamation No. 495 of the President. It is one of the attached agencies under the supervision and control of the Department of Justice. This is the Code of Calantiao. The Article 1. You shall not kill, neither shall you steal, neither shall you do harm to age, lest you incur the damage of death. So, all those who infringe this order shall be condemned to death by being drowned in the river or in boiling water. Article 2. You shall obey, let all your debts with the headman be met punctually. He who does not obey shall receive for the first time 100 lashes. If the debt is large, he shall be condemned to thrust his hand in boiling water thrice. For the second time, he shall be beaten to death. Article 3. Obey you. Let no one have women that are very young, nor more than he can support, nor be given to excessive lust. He does not comply with, obey, and observe this order shall be condemned to swim for 3 hours for the first time and for the second time, to be beaten to death with sharp thorns. Article 4. Observe and obey. Let no one disturb the quiet for the graves. When passing by the caves and trees where they are, give respect to them. He who does not observe shall be killed by ants or beaten to death with thorns. Article 5. You shall obey. He who exchanges for food, let it be always done in accordance with his word. He who does not comply shall be beaten for 1 hour. He feeds the offense shall be exposed for 1 day among ants. Article 6. You shall be obliged to revere sites that are held in respect, such as those of trees of recognized worth and other sites. He who enters the houses of the headman without permission, he who kills a shark or a stray cayman. Article 7. This shall be put to death. He who kills trees or venerable appearance, who shoot arrows at night at old men and women, he who enters the houses of the headman without permission, he who kills a shark or a stray cayman. Article 8. Slavery to death for a doom, a certain period of time, shall be suffered by those who steal away the women of the headman, by him who keep ill-tempered dogs that bite the headman, by him who burns the fields of another. Article 9. All these shall be eaten for 2 days, who sing while traveling by night, kill the manual, tear the documents belonging to the headman, are malicious liar, or who mock the dead. Article 10. It is decreed an obligation that every mother take secretly to her daughters matters pertaining to lust and prepare them for womanhood. Let not men by cruel not punish their women when they catch them in the act of adultery. Whoever shall disobey shall be killed by being cut to pieces and thrown to the caymans. Article 11. These shall be born, who by their strength or cunning have mocked at and escaped punishment, or who have killed young boys, or tried to steal away the women of the elders. Article 12. These shall be drawn, all who enter free with their superiors of their owners or masters, all those who abuse themselves through their lust, those who destroy their anitors by breaking them or throwing them down. Article 13. All these shall be exposed to ants for a half day. Hotel black can cut during a new moon or steal anything from the chief of agorangs, however smaller the object may be. Article 14. These shall be made slave for life, who have beautiful daughters and deny them to the sons of chiefs and with bad faith hide them away. Article 15. Concerning beliefs and superstitions, they shall be beaten who eat the deceased flesh of beasts which they hold in respect, or the herb which they consider good, who wound or kill the young of the manual, or the white monkey. Article 16. The fingers shall be cut off all of those who break idols of wood and clay in their alangans and temples, of those who destroys the daggers of the Tagalons, or break the drinking jars of the latter. Article 17. These shall be killed, who profane sites where idols are kept, in sites where are buried the sacred things of their devatas and headmen. He who performs his necessities in those places shall be burned. Article 18. Those who do not cause these rules to be obeyed, if they are headmen, they shall be put to death by being stoned and crushed, and if they are agorangs, they shall be placed in rivers to be eaten by sharks and caimans. So those are the codes of Kalantiao. So this next is 7 institutional correction in the Philippines. This is the New Bilibid Prison. So New Bilibid Prison in Muntinlupa and Metro Manila is the main insular penitentiary designed to house the prison population of the Philippines. It is maintained by the Bureau of Corrections or Bucor under the Department of Justice. So as of May 2018, the New Bilibid Prison housed 26,877 convicted criminals. In 1940, prisoners were transferred to the New Bilibid Prison from the Old Bilibid Prison, also known as Cárcel y Presidio Correccional, or Spanish for Correctional Jail and Military Prison in Manila. The remnants of the old facility was used by the city of Manila as its detention center, known today as Manila City Jail. So the penitentiary had an initial land area of 551 hectares or 1,360 acres, but 104 hectares or 260 acres were transferred to a housing project for the Department of Justice. Additional land of the New Bilibid Prison Reservation is used for the Bureau of Corrections headquarters. During Japanese occupation of the Philippines during World War II, Bilibid was a prisoner of war and civilian internee camp where American soldiers and civilians were held by the Japanese. 1,200 internees and POWs were freed by the American Army on February 4, 1945 during the Battle of Manila. The government of the Philippines plans to create a regional prison in Nueva Ecija through a public-private partnership. Old Bilibid Prison, then known as Carol I. Presidio Correctional or Spanish Correctional Jail and Military Prison. The old prison was established by the Spanish colonial government on June 25, 1865. San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm. San Ramon Prison was established in southern Zamboanga on August 21, 1870 through a royal decree promulgated in 1869. It is established during the tenure of Governor General Ramon Blanco. The facility was originally established for persons convicted of political crimes. During the Spanish-American War in 1898, the prisoners in San Ramon were hastily released and the buildings destroyed. In 1907, the American administration re-established the prison farm. In November 1, 1905, Reorganization Act No. 1907 was approved, creating the Bureau of Prisoners under the Department of Commerce and Police, integrating the old Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Penal Colony, and Iwahig Penal. Iwahig Penal Colony, the facility was established during the American occupation. So during the Spanish regime, that Puerto Rico Princesa was designated as a place where offenders sentenced to banishment were exiled. A specific area of Puerto Princesa was selected as the site for correctional facility. The American military carved out a prison facility in the rainforest of Fuerte Princesa, Palawan. Governor Luke Wright authorized the establishment of the penal colony in the province of Palawan on November 16, 1904. This penal settlement, which originally served as a depository for prisoners who could not be accommodated at the Bilibid prison in Manila. So, in 1906, the Department of Commerce and Police moved to turn the institution into the center of penal colony supervised in accordance with trends at the time. In 1955, an Administrative Order No. 20 was promulgated by the President and implemented by the Secretary of Agriculture and Natural Resources. This order allowed the distribution of colony lands for cultivation by deserving colonists. The order also contained a list of qualifications for colonists who wished to apply for a lot to cultivate, the conditions for the settlers' stay in this land. On August 16, 1959, a committee was created by President Carlos P. Garcia to study the state of national prisoners, or prisons. Prisoners in Iwahig were divided into two groups, the settler and colonists. So, the settlers are those engaged in farming for their own benefit. They are ones who applicants for land to cultivate have been approved. And the government furnishes the land and initial requirements for those dwelling in beasts of burden. Upon the release from colony, they receive whatever amount of money they have credited in their favor after deducting the obligation they have. The Correctional Institution for Women, or CIW. In January 22, 1959, they submitted to a committee created by Administrative Order No. 287 by the President of the Philippines. It was noted that before a separate building was constructed, especially for women prisoners, all female convicts were confined at the old Bilibid prison on Azcaragas, St. Manila. The male prisoners were confined in dormitories near the women's quarters. Because of these conditions, vocational activities of the women prisoners were limited to embroidery. When they became ill, the women were confined in a separate building which served as a hospital with nurses and prison physicians. So, when women prisoners needed surgery, they were operated on at the Bilibid prison. And after operation, they were transferred to the infirmary for convalescence. Prison authorities were aware of the conditions that the women prisoners had to endure. The Philippine legislature passed on Republic Act No. 3579 on November 1929. It authorized the transfer of all women and maids to a building in Wilferville at Mandaluyong, Rizal, and appropriated 60,000 pesos for the move. On February 14, 1931, the women prisoners were transferred from the old Bilibid prison to the buildings especially constructed for them. Its old name, Women's Prison, was changed to Correctional Institution for Women. This was keeping with emerging trends in penology, which emphasized Christian rather than punishment. Convicts were brought back into the social mainstream, adjusted and rehabilitative with a better outlook in life. CIW, according to It court occupied 18 hectares. The original was a one-story building which housed the office, the bridges, mess hall, kitchen, chapel, infirmary, bathrooms, and employees' restroom. The building has a central courtyard with trees and flowering plants. The prisoners' vocational activities were expanded to include poultry and piggery, as well as cultivation of crops. During the Japanese occupation, the CIW, despite a drastic reduction in the number of its employees, continued with its work. A number of female military personnel were also confined in the institution. After the war, CIW resumed its normal operations. Weekly catechism classes were introduced. A dental clinic was built. Local telephones were installed in the guards' quarters. The Bureau of Public Works made major repairs. Honda main building in a time could accommodate around 16 patients. In 2000, a four-story building was constructed by the Department of Public Works within the grounds of CIW. It caused the growing congestion in the facility. The CIW, with a capacity for only 200 inmates and had to accommodate 1,000 inmates. Davao Penal Colony. The Davao Penal Colony is the first penal settlement founded and organized under Filipino administration. The settlement, which originally had an area of approximately 36,000 hectares in the districts of Panabo and Tagum, Davao del Norte, was formally established on January 29, 1932 by Virtue Act No. 3732. This act authorized the Governor-General to lease or sell the land, buildings, and improvements in San Ramon and Iwahig Penal Colony. It also granted authority to the Secretary of Justice to establish a new prison and penal colony in a suitable public land. A budget of 500,000 was allocated. Several committees were created to pick a suitable for the final settlement. In accordance with a recommendation of these committees, Governor Dwight Davis signed Proclamation No. 414 on October 7, 1931, which reserved a site for the penal colony in Davao Province in Mindanao. The site offered ideal conditions for agricultural activities. During World War II, the colony was converted into a concentration camp where more than 1,000 Japanese internists committed by the Philippine-American Armed Forces. The Japanese were treated in accordance with the orders of the American commanding officer. On December 20, 1941, the Japanese Imperial Forces attacked Davao, and the colony was among the establishments taken over by the invading army. The entire settlement was thrown into confusion, and a great number of prisoners escaped. Normal operations were inevitably disturbed. On November 8, 1942, a representative of the Director of Prisoners of Prisons transferred the colony and its properties to the Japanese authorities. The remaining colony employees, the families, and the inmates evacuated to a head, where they organized the Davao Penal Colony at Inagawan Sub-Colony in Palawan. The organization of the colony in exile, who was authorized by virtue of Memorandum Order No. 60, dated June 28, 1943, and signed by the Director of Prisons. So, after the liberation of the Philippines, the colony in exile in Palawan returned to its old site in Davao. A great deal of rebuilding and repair had to be done because the war had almost completely destroyed the colony. Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. The Sablayan Penal Colony is located in Occidental Mindoro and relatively new. It established on September 26, 1954 by virtue of Presidential Proclamation No. 72. The penal colony has a total land area of approximately 16,190 hectares. Prison records show that the first colonists and employees arrived in Sablayan on January 15, 1955. since the several buildings have been constructed, including the colony's dormitories, employees' quarters, guardhouse, schoolhouse, chapel, recreation hall, and post exchange. Three sub-colonies were later organized, when each reservation which this day remains part of protected rainforest. Another is in a coastal area. The third was used by the national government as a relocation site for refugees from the eruption of Mount Pinatubo in eruption in 1991. Sablayan Prison is a facility which represented from the new Bilibid prison brought for decongestion purposes. It follows the same colony standards as other penal farms. Leyte Regional Prison. The Leyte Regional Prison, situated in Abuyog, southern Leyte, was established a year after the declaration of martial law in 1972 by virtue of Presidential Decree No. 2. While its plantilla and institutional plan were almost ideal, lack of funds made the prison unable to realize its full potentials, and its facilities are often below for compared with those other established penal farms. The Leyte Regional Prison has an inmate capacity of 500. It follows the same agricultural format as the main correctional program in addition to some rehabilitation activities. The prison admits convicted offenders from Region 6 and from the National Penitentiary in Muntinlupa. Provincial Jail System. Public Attorney Office or PAO is attached the agency of the Department of Justice, which provides indigent litigants free legal assistance. So the Public Attorney Office of PAO shall be an independent and autonomous office but attached to the Department of Justice in accordance with Section 38, Chapter 7 of Book 4 of this code for purpose of police policy and program coordination. The PAO shall be the principal law office of the government in extending free legal assistance to indigent persons in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial agencies. Legal representation, assistance, and counseling to indigent persons in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and quasi-judicial cases. In the exigency of the service, the PAO may be called upon by the proper government authorities to render such service to other persons subject to existing laws, rules, and regulations. The mission of PAO. The Public Attorney Office exists to provide the indigent litigants, the oppressed, marginalized, and underprivileged members of the society through the access to courts, judicial and quasi-judicial agencies, by rendering legal services, counseling, and assistance in consonance with the constitutional mandate that free to courts shall not be denied to any person by reason of poverty, in order to ensure the rule of law, truth, and social justice as components of the country's sustainable development. The vision of PAO. A government agency that is God-centered and dynamic bureaucracy that is responsive to the ever-growing legal needs of the indigenous and oppressed, led by highly competent, world-class, development-oriented, honest, dedicated, and nationalistic leaders and lawyers. This is the three institutional agencies under BUCOR, the DILG, or Department of Interior and Local Government, the DIG, or Department of Justice, the DSWD, or the Department of Social Welfare and Development. The Department of Interior and Local Government, or DILG, is the executive department responsible for promoting peace and order, ensuring public safety, and strengthening the capability of local government units to efficiently deliver basic services to the citizenry. So the following agencies attached to the ILG. These were the Bureau of Fire Protection, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, and the Philippine National Police. The Bureau of Fire Protection is the responsible for ensuring public safety through prevention, or suppression of all the destructive fires of buildings, houses, and other similar structure. Department of Interior and Local Government is the executive department responsible for promoting peace and order, ensuring the public safety and strengthening the capability of local government units to deliver basic service to citizenry. So, let's proceed to next. So, Bureau of Jail Management and Penology is mandated to direct, supervise, and control the administration and operation of all the district, city, and municipal jails nationwide with prompt tasks of safekeeping and development of inmates. The Philippine National Police. Their task is with enforcing the law to prevent and control crimes, maintain peace and order, and ensure public safety and internal security with the active support of the community. Department of Justice. The Department of Justice is under the Executive Department of the Philippine government, responsible for upholding the rule of law in the Philippines. The Department of Justice acts as the principal law agency and legal counsel of the government. The Department of Justice serves as the government's prosecution arm and administers the government's criminal justice system by investigating crimes, prosecuting offenders, and overseeing the correctional system. So, the following attached to the Department of Justice, these were the Bureau of Corrections, National Bureau of Investigation, the Public Attorney Office, Parole and Probation Administration. The Bureau of Correction. This is an agency under the Department of Justice that is charged with custody and rehabilitation of national offenders, that is, those sentenced to serve a term of imprisonment of more than 3 years. The National Bureau of Investigation. It undertakes the efficient detection and investigation of crimes and other offenses against Philippine laws. It also acts as national clearinghouse of criminal and other information for the use of all prosecuting and law enforcement entities of the Philippines. Public Attorney's Office, the principal law office of the government in extending free legal assistance to indigent persons in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial cases. The Parole and Probation Administration is the responsible for providing a less costly alternative to imprisonment of first-time offenders who are likely to respond to individualized community-based treatment programs. The Department of Social Welfare and Development is the primary government agency mandated to develop, implement, and coordinate social protection and poverty reduction solutions for and with the poor, vulnerable, and disadvantaged. So that's all my report about Module 3, and thank you for watching. God bless.